Ever wondered why some people seem so grown up at a young age while others are forever stuck in their childish ways? You've probably pondered this question at least once or twice, right? Well, welcome to the age-old question of maturity. Maturity is a fascinating concept. It's like a chameleon, constantly changing and adapting. You see, maturity isn't just about growing old or reaching a certain age. Nope, it's not that simple. Maturity is about growth, understanding, and transformation. It's about learning to navigate the choppy seas of life with grace and wisdom. Now let's dive into some examples that bring a smirk to our faces, yet make us think. Picture little 7-year-old Sally. While her friends are busy making mud pies, Sally is insistent on doing her own laundry. She carefully sorts her clothes, measures out the detergent, and even folds her socks just right. Now that's some adulting right there. On the flip side, imagine 40-year-old Bob. Bob loves his video games. Nothing wrong with that, right? Until he doesn't get the latest game console for his birthday, and throws a tantrum worthy of a 2-year-old. Not quite the picture of maturity, is it? But here's the thing. Maturity isn't about ticking off boxes on some imaginary checklist. It's not about doing laundry at 7 or refraining from throwing tantrums at 40. It's about how we react to life's ups and downs, how we handle disappointments and setbacks, how we treat others, and how we continue to learn and grow. So remember that age is just a number. It doesn't dictate your maturity level. You could be a wise beyond their years teenager or a middle-aged person still figuring things out. And that's okay, because maturity, it turns out, is a journey, not a destination. And it's a journey we're all on, whether we like it or not. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Meet Tim. Tim is a regular guy, but his journey to maturity has been anything but ordinary. Tim, like many of us, started life as a bit of a goofball, the kind of guy who'd put his left shoe on his right foot and walk into a job interview. Now that's not a metaphor, Tim really did that. Picture this. There's Tim, confidently striding into the interview room, tie perfectly knotted, resume crisp and fresh, but something seeming a little off. It's only when the interviewer points out his shoe situation that Tim realizes his mistake. But true to form, he takes it in stride, laughs it off, and goes on with the interview. He didn't get the job, but he did get a great story to tell. Or how about the time when Tim, in his early 20s, was entrusted with the responsibility of bringing a cake to a friend's birthday party. The cake was chocolate, his favorite, and it was just sitting there on his kitchen counter, tempting him. Now, most of us would have probably taken a tiny sliver off the edge just to taste. But not our Tim. No, he sat there and ate the whole thing. Every last crumb. The look on his face when he showed up at the party, cakeless and sugar-rushed, was priceless. His friends still tease him about it to this day. But it wasn't all laughs and gags for Tim. There were tough times too, like when he had to move to a new city for work, leaving his friends and familiar surroundings behind, or when he had to deal with the loss of a loved one. It was during these times that Tim's immaturity was truly tested, but every time he rose to the occasion, learning from his experiences and growing as a person. You see, maturity isn't just about age or experience. It's about how we handle the challenges life throws at us. It's about learning from our mistakes and using them as stepping stones to become better versions of ourselves. And in Tim's case, each humorous mishap and challenging situation was a lesson in disguise, nudging him towards maturity. Tim's journey wasn't a straight path. There were detours and bumps along the way, but that's what made it unique, and that's what makes Tim, well, Tim. He's not perfect, but he's real. He's not always mature, but he's always learning. And isn't that what life's all about? But Tim, like all of us, was destined to grow up. And his journey to maturity was filled with both hilarious mishaps and valuable lessons. So what changed for Tim? What turned this cake-eating, wrong-shoe-wearing man-child into a mature adult? Well, Tim's transformation didn't happen overnight. You see, life has a funny way of grabbing us by the collar and forcing us to face reality. For Tim, it was a series of events that led to a harsh, yet necessary, awakening. One ordinary day, Tim woke up to find that his favorite pair of mismatched shoes were falling apart, and his cake stash had run dry. Forced to go shopping, he realized that he couldn't afford new shoes or even a humble pound cake. It was a sobering moment to see the consequences of his reckless spending habits. But it wasn't until he couldn't pay his rent and faced eviction that the gravity of his situation truly sank in. Tim was forced to confront the fact that his carefree lifestyle was not sustainable. This realization was like a splash of cold water to the face. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but it was the catalyst for change. Tim understood that he needed to take responsibility for his actions and decisions. Often maturity isn't something that just happens. It's not like waking up one day and realizing you've grown an inch taller. No, maturity comes from overcoming challenges, learning from our mistakes, and making a conscious effort to grow. For Tim, this turning point was his wake-up call. He began to reassess his priorities, making changes to his lifestyle. He learned to budget, to save, and to think about his future. He swapped his cake diet for healthier options, and he even learned to match his shoes. Yes, there were stumbles along the way. There were times when he fell back into old habits, times when he doubted himself. But each time he picked himself up, dusted off the crumbs of his past, and kept moving forward. And so, Tim began his journey to maturity. It wasn't always smooth sailing, but it was certainly entertaining. Let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned from Tim's journey. It was a wild ride, wasn't it? Full of twists, turns, and a suspiciously large number of cake-related incidents. First, we saw that maturity isn't a one-size-fits-all concept. Just like Tim's ill-fated attempts at baking, it's a process that's unique to each of us. We all have our own ingredients, our own recipe for life. It's just that some of us, like Tim, might need to make a few, shall we say, experimental batches before we get it right. Remember the great frosting fiasco of 2024? That's a perfect example of how not to handle a crisis. But it's also a lesson in resilience. Tim didn't let one culinary catastrophe stop him. Instead, he took his sugar-coated defeat in stride, learned from his mistakes, and came back stronger and wiser. That's the spirit of maturity, learning, growing, and not letting the fear of failure hold you back. And let's not forget about the epic cake versus balloon battle. Sure, it was a humorous reminder that sometimes life doesn't go according to plan, but it also taught us that maturity is about adaptability. It's about being able to roll with the punches, or in this case, the errant cake slices. Finally, there's the saga of the surprise birthday cake. The one that wasn't so much a surprise as it was a lesson in communication. Because maturity isn't just about personal growth, it's about understanding and respecting others too. It's about realizing that we're all in this together, and that sometimes the best way to help is simply to listen. So what can we take away from all this? Well, besides the fact that Tim should probably stay away from the kitchen for a while, we've learned that maturity isn't just about getting older. It's about growing, changing, and learning from our experiences. It's about embracing the unexpected, facing challenges head-on, and understanding others. So remember, maturity isn't about age, it's about attitude. And sometimes, it takes a few cake-related mishaps to get there. But remember, the journey to maturity never truly ends. It's a winding road, full of unexpected twists, turns, and the occasional pothole. And just when you think you've got it all figured out, life throws you a curveball, or a delicious cake. Because let's be honest, who among us can resist the allure of a good cake? Truth be told, we are all just a slice of cake away from our less mature selves. One minute you're pondering deep philosophical questions, the next you're contemplating whether it's acceptable to eat cake for breakfast. And that's okay. It's these moments, these tiny detours on our path to maturity, that make the journey worthwhile. So keep growing, keep learning, and yes, keep eating cake. Because maturity isn't just about the destination, it's about the journey. So here's to the journey, to the lessons learned and the cakes eaten along the way. After all, maturity might be a journey, but it's certainly not a race.